When you hear of indie animation praise, it's usually 3D or well-drawn animation, specifically glitch productions and Spindle Horse. But we can't forget about the time when Flash was the most common program for every internet animator, especially on Newgrounds. In fact, many animation styles would be formed, but there was one type of style that has been overlooked in the indie world, which is stick figure animation. I also made a video about stick figures a while back, but that video is shit because you have to put the volume really high just to hear my goofy voice, even though one of the most popular indie animators uses this style, and also has more subs than Glitch and VisiPop combined. So today I'll be looking at the history of stick animation, the most popular series in that style, and then explaining why they're important. Anyways, let's get poppin'. In 1996, there were two popular stick figure websites called StickDev.com by Rob Lewis and Stick Figure Death Feeder by Matt Calvert. SFDT would be the home of famous animators Ed Gold and Turquoise. Unfortunately, these websites would be shut down a decade later, with them also harboring lost media, such as Ed Gold's original series Bendy Stick being mostly lost. Also in 1999, Jay Whitner, better known as Crazy Jay, would make the website Stickman, which later became StickPage. These websites would be the catalyst of stick figure animation along with Newgrounds. Heading into the 2000s, a series called Xiao will be made by Chinese animator Zhu Xicheng on Newgrounds. Unrelated, but what did they call this guy in China? Which showed off incredible fight scenes and basically set the standard for stick figure fights. The storyline itself would be unfinished since 8 would leave on a cliffhanger, and Part 9 would just be a video game. Also, there would be a lawsuit with Nike in 2004, since Nike did a commercial with a stick figure that did Zyre moves.
That's right, Stickman, do it, baby!
And had feet, which was maybe rare at the time. Xiao won the lawsuit, but Nike would later win with an appeal in 2006. The series Joe Zombie will be made by Robert Dan Blanker, which is about a zombie named Joe Zombie going on a rampage to a revenge campaign. This was posted on a website made by Rob that I can't say, and where he also met others on the website who would all later create Cyanide and Happiness. Joe Zombie's story would actually leave on a cliffhanger, since the 7th part hasn't been released and probably never will since it's been years. In 2004, Pencilmation will be made on Newgrounds by Ross Bollinger. It was just about a pencil who torments the drawing, since this was inspired by Duck-a-Muck. The series would only release 2 episodes and Ross would make other cartoons before taking a 3-year hiatus. He would return not only to Newgrounds but also bring his series to YouTube and StickPage, and also introduce his first major character being Hank. I still remember when he talked and peed on the pencil. Hank would even get his own spin-off, which is very crappy and obnoxious. This series would continue for 35 seasons, introduce a whole new cast, get over 20 million subs, and get a mention in YouTube Rewind 2019. Also, when Pencilmation 57 aired, it would not only show the new show but then a massive compilation of previous shorts, since YouTube implemented the views to watch time rule, which actually destroyed indie animators like Oni and Egoraptor. Hey, at least YT shorts are a thing now. In my opinion of the series, I really like the early seasons due to nostalgia on StickPage, especially season 2 since they were very creative and also had adorable humor. Some of the modern shorts are nice. A major problem I have is content farming, with some of the thumbnails being very weird. Nowadays the shorts are now being produced on TikTok, and they've also done an indie pilot called Jill Next Door. Fun fact, Ross did all the work for the first 36 shorts before finally getting help on the 37th short. 2005 would be the creation of the website Wildcard Anims by Stone. What Wildcard Anims brought to the table was a concept called Wildcard Gladiators, which was basically animators OCs fighting. The system of these battles are basically another animator challenges another animator stick figure. Each animator creates an animation and posts it on a forum to see which animation is better, and whichever animation turns out to be better is the winner of the RHJ battle. Unfortunately, Wildcard Anims will be abandoned due to problems with the hosting server, which led to the creation of a new website called Fluent Anims by Stone and Turquoise. There will be many RHJ characters, with the most famous being Andre by Stone, Alpha by Turquoise, Yo-Yo by Hyun, Chuck by Endo TV, John by Jom, Mr. Pigs by Geo, etc, etc. There would also be a thing called clans, with the most popular being Nemesis. In 2012, Fluid Anims merged with StickPage due to a signed contract with Crazy J. Unfortunately, the agreement didn't work out since there was limited creative freedom, which would result in the creation of Hyun's Dojo community. Hyun's Dojo would grow more popular than StickPage due to it being more like Fluid Anims, and after Flash closed, StickPage would cease to exist. Hayun's dojo would also close by in 2024. Despite that, they still have a massive channel and the community is still there. Back to OHJ itself, there will be many iconic fights such as Chuck vs Alpha, Yo-Yo vs Alpha, Oxlop vs Fox and Q, Oxlop vs Blazer, and finally my favorite one, Umbrella vs Alpha. The most unique thing about OHJ is how the animators create their own story while doing these. Nowadays, OHJ has faded away due to fading popularity, but there was a serious tribute by Gilded Guy, and Hayun's dojo is still selling merchandise on their shop site. In 2006, Animator vs Animation was made on Newgrounds by Alan Becker, which was also inspired by Duck Amuck and other animations. Love how this Looney Tunes short spawned two gigantic empires. AVA would become a trilogy that would end on October 11th, 2010, since Alan just wanted to move on. After failing to go into Pixar and a motivation from his teacher, he would return with AVA 4 with a new protagonist and cast. He would also venture the series into other spin-offs like Animation vs Minecraft, Animation vs Education, etc, etc. This is my favorite indie cartoon of all time, not only for nostalgic purposes but just having some of the most well-written story arcs in all of web shows. Maybe even in the animation medium. In 2007, an animation called The Shark will be made by Turquoise, which was inspired by the before mentioned Xiao. His story is just about someone named Mr. Red who applied to be a janitor and having to whoop everyone's ass there to get the job. This will become a trilogy, and unfortunately at the end of part 3, he was fired because he couldn't catch the real Mr. Green, and for being a piss poor janitor. The series is renowned for its smooth animation and godly fight scenes. This would also receive 2 fan-made tributes, one being just an average tribute where Mr. Green's being a dick, and the other being a distant sequel to the Shark trilogy, where Mr. Red gets revenge with the power of Musica. And that's kind of all the major series and events I could talk about. There are way more, so here are some quick mentions. Stick Figures. This will be posted in 2010 by Mondo Media. This is the most unique one since it isn't associated with Stick Page or any other traditional animated program for stick figures, but instead hand-drawn. Turquoise's 4-day special. This was Turquoise's 2011 and 2012 special where he posted 4 different animations each day. My favorite animation on there is Top Stick since it's just a massive crossover fight, Slush Invaders. This will be posted in 2011 by Gilded Guy, where it's just a bunch of stick figures fighting off invaders, and if you didn't know, those stick figures are based on Gilded Guy's old college roommates. This will get a game which is good, and a dual animation which is superb. Doors. This was posted in 2013 and continued for 5 parts. This was basically about a stickman going through different doors showing various different scenarios animated by different animators. Basically just a massive multi-animated project. So about stick animation, why it's criminally underrated and needing animation praise. Basically, if you haven't noticed, Glitch has never mentioned Alan Becker, which to me is unfair because AVA is one of the biggest indie cartoons on YouTube, and Alan is also the most subscribed indie animation channel on the platform. Save for the fuck boom. But Glitch doesn't really have to mention every indie show. It's just that there's a problem on how most animation review channels don't even mention AVA, and when it does happen, it's kinda overlooked. The reason AVA should be more talked about is not only because of its quality, but what it has done for the stick animation community. If you didn't know, Turquoise is currently working for Alan Becker, and Alan has shouted out Stick Page, old animators, and most notably featured many iconic stick figures in a recent video. The same can be kinda said for Pencilmation in terms of mentioning and popularity, and they are improving with new shorts. Another unique aspect is the stick fighting community, which is probably the most popular battle-based indie animation genre, save for Death Battle, even though it's pop culture characters. How OHJ worked was also very independent and supportive of one another's creations. Hayun's dojo should also be given major credit for helping many animators as well, since on the website you can register freely and get started easily, and your animations could be featured on the channel. This is a progressive way to help indie animators get started. Overall, this is why this animation community should be mentioned more in the indie animation space, and be given more credit due to its impact on many animators. And that's kind of all I wanted to say. Stick animation was probably my first ever exposure to internet animation, which were those funny stick figure on crack videos. There are still many stick channels that deserve credit, such as this guy who sadly lost everything due to a hacking. Please give him the support he needs. And this guy made a very nice series about stickmen not fighting. It's also gonna be a decade since the 11th part of this series was released. The stick community is not really dead either. There's just been more new stuff and also not a bunch of credit where credit is due. Anyways, see y'all later.